let's try to capture it all, but like before you go in, let's smoke a little bit. Let's get a little right. Let's get righter,
because I'm already right, man.
I have a crush on the dude that lives across the street.
The white dude
with the red hair.
I thought that's not the one that you think looks like Doctor Who?
Nah, that's the one on this side. Yeah.
Okay.
I stay seeing him at fucking Hank's trying to look like a damn greaser, yo. This nigga be trying to look like, fucking, he trying to look like, that nigga from Crybaby, yo. Fucking, fuck, what is that name? Johnny Depp! Johnny Depp, yo. Forgot that nigga's name like shit. He's forgettable as fuck. Honestly, I don't know why he did. After he did Willy Wonka, I was like, yo, you killed your career, nigga. Killed your career in my eyes. That's right, Willy Wonka, I'm talking about you. Not the first nigga. I think his name was like Pat or something, or Gene Simmons. I'm not sure.
Something. Oh, shit.
Dude.
It's almost time to go to Haley's birthday party.
Shit, okay, well, let's go in.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, me and Jodi been watching. We actually watched a lot of stuff today that all, like, kind of, like, gelled together in my mind as things to talk about. And I want to start off with, I recently was watching the Kanye West at the Breakfast Club interview. And then I also watched Kanye West Talk This Way. But honestly, you know, I thought it was interesting that, like, Kanye thought that Charlamagne was gonna, quote-unquote, go in on him. Because I think, like, while Charlamagne says things about Kanye, I don't ever feel like he's lying, one. And I don't ever feel like he's, like, trying to be, like, blatantly, like, obnoxious or, like, extra, you know what I mean? Or scandalous about what he's saying. I feel like it's all relevant as fuck. And I think that, like, people want to hype it. I think people want it to seem like a bigger deal. But I think when someone gives you real rap, I think it can be kind of hard to take. And I think that that's what was happening in both of those interviews, where niggas were saying real shit to Kanye and he just really didn't want to hear it. Cause no shade. I recently, like, was working at a small business, and I've worked for many small businesses. Kanye certainly has enough money to start his own business, chain. It's obvious, as he's stated multiple times, niggas line up whenever Kanye works with Louis Vuitton or Gucci or whoever the fuck he's working with. Niggas line up. So if you know that you have pull, if you know that you got a market, if you talking about your pop-up shop did like $300 something thousand, then that means you obviously have the capital to have multiple fucking spots. What I'm hearing is, like, definitely a critiqueness of whiteness. I will have to say, when he came at, like, Jewish people specifically, I thought that that was kind of, like, okay, like, kind of random. But I also want to say that, like, you know, I don't think that it's anti-Semitic to say that Jewish people are, like, typically from a large family that has network capabilities. I don't know that that's, like, a negative, like, stereotype. However, I don't want to be sitting here saying that, like, you know, intrinsically, yes, Jewish people are the people that are keeping black people out of the media industries. But I want to say that, like, Kanye West being a black man, a black cis man, talking about capitalism right next to racism, but not at all making the links that are necessary. Again, making the links on this level that is, like, seemingly, like, just not coherent. You know, like, listening to him was just very hard because, like, he was just bouncing around and Charlamagne was asking him lots of questions, but I just don't feel like he ever really answered any of them. And I feel like he said a lot of things, and there were, like, some parts that were, like, lucid, like, really great thoughts that, like, I would love him to expound upon. But I feel like it was just soundbite material. I don't feel like and not even good soundbite material. It's like the shit he was saying was long ass tangential ass shit that you really had to like really be listening out for and catching parts of. So
there's also bullshit though, like not to shame like long tangents. It was just like a long tangent of like fuckery and like just half truths or like hinting at what's going on, but then not really like, I don't know, like the fear and the resistance of really going all the way there, you know? Like having another like George Bush doesn't like black people moment, you know? And then getting like caught out there in white media with people being like, oh, well, you didn't really mean that, right? So I feel like he's like trying to say stuff, but not really.
Word. No, and I agree. And I feel like, unfortunately, like his activism at this point seems conditional. It seems like his activism is centered around him specifically not being led into these industries that are dominated by, in his own words, Jewish people. But what I want to say is I feel like he was using Jewish people in the broader sense in terms of white people, which is fucked up considering there are non-white Jews that really do exist, that have existed from the fucking beginning of time. So it's like, you know, I feel like in ways I feel like Jewish people can be feeling some type of way because they were literally all scapegoated, all of them, because you know I'm not just talking about white people. I feel like Jewish people can't be mad for being scapegoated when the conversation was obviously being centered around white Jewish people in these industries that Kanye could not break into specifically, and he was not, and like he was name dropping black designers and black people that, you know, he was naming some black people, but most of the names that he dropped was white cis dudes that have either like influence culture in very negative and fucked up sociopathic ways, or in ways that were like very much like ruggedly individualistic, some bootstraps type shit. And like, you know, Charlamagne mentioned that Kanye came from the bottom and worked his way up, and now he's just trying to fuck with the top tier. And it's like, you know, in some ways it's like, you know, well, like Kanye West is not gonna fucking go to your motherfucking congressmen and women. Like, he's not gonna do that shit. He's going to be talking about these greater infrastructures, and this is not at all to dismiss the side eyes, because I truly don't understand why he wouldn't go to the people, because I feel like the people would be more fucking interested in listening to Kanye West if he was interested in talking to them. It seems like, honestly, like the way that Kanye was talking about his brand and his music, it seems so fucking like McDonald's to me. It just seems so fucking like arbitrarily like commodified. It just seemed like so overly like produced that it made me fucking sick to listen to him in parts, because it seemed like he was like saying like he was here for the people and he makes music for the people and he makes music so he can have a voice in terms of like being able to influence culture, being able to influence like shit in terms of money, being able to secure his child's future. And I'm sitting here like, you say you lost $13 million. The fact that like I as a human being am sitting here not able to fathom having $13 million to lose is one conversation. But it just, you know, it just stood out to me that this black man, who is a black man every motherfucking day of his life, could get some money, and then it just shows you how classism affects racism. It affects the way black people see the world, and it starts to become this thing where, you know, notice, Kanye always had a problem with the establishment, but like at this point, it just seems like his whole like MO is to affect the establishment in ways that are like half-ass, in ways
to let him in.
Yeah, to let him in. It's like he's trying to be the anti-corporation, but he want to be a corporation. Yeah, it's like you know, like, and that's the thing. It's this double speak. And it's like, you know, I think in some ways, you know, I think it's also like linked to like the Obamification of the government. The idea that this black man sitting at this figurehead position somehow changes how government is done. And the fact that he's a well-spoken black man with like the look and the mannerisms that make white people feel comfortable, at least a lot of them, shit. It puts a whole new look on government. And to some people, that shit, their mind has shifted. To some people, they do think post-racial. They do believe that we're post-racial because they see in Obama. So when Kanye starts talking about his life and starts talking about how he's revolutionary and he's like Michelangelo and he's like, you know, he's naming all these
Steve Jobs.
He's naming all these white, cis, like patriarchal figures that are like very much like in bed with government, in bed with like the breakdown of like the black community, but yet he also exposes that in his music. So it's something that's very interesting. There's something to be said about a marginalized person, you know, talking about master, but letting you know he trying to be master too. You know what I mean? It's just very like, wow. And you know, I did see something on Son of Baldwin about it too, and I wanted to expound about how, you know, like, all this nigga's idols, like I was saying, Michelangelo, and also saying that like he'll be like the Medici family, the people that helped Michelangelo get to where he needed to be. I think that's what he's talking about when he's talking about the Kardashians. I think like he aligned himself with that family, and I think like when he did that interview with Chris, it was to like put him out there as a safe brand. Notice in the audience, it was mostly like light-skinned white ladies up in there, and they was all oohing and ahhing for Mr. Kanye West, and oh, Kanye got his respectable Negro voice on. Well, you know, Chris, you know, I'm afraid, you know, I don't want to show my softness as a rapper, and oh, I didn't know how to do the car seat, you know, so, you know, I got paparazzi watching me. I'm just like, I'm watching him code switch, I'm watching him move through, and I'm watching him also tip his hat to Jay-Z and say that Jay-Z helped him, you know, be a nice guy or be more likable, more relatable. And the thing is, even when you listen to Jay-Z, the shit that he says is just wild. You know what I mean? Like, him and Kanye both say wild things, and that's because they're rich-ass niggas. Black capitalism. They can only see the chains on them. They cannot see the chains for everybody else because everybody else's chains look different. They're like, nigga, my chains is nice. You know what I mean? These, like, Kanye surprised that as a black man, he's not getting these deals. And it's like, and Charlamagne even says, that's rich nigga problems. I don't got those problems, you know what I mean? It says to Kanye what I think most fans want to say to Kanye, which is, nigga, we want to hear the music that inspired us to, like, do our shit, you know what I mean? I fuck with Celebration. I fuck with, I'm not gonna lie with you. I fuck with Late Registration. I fucked with College Dropout. I fuck with Graduation, and I kind of fell off. I'm not gonna lie to you. And I really don't fuck with Yeezus, and I really appreciate Charlamagne for saying that fucking Yeezus was whack. Yeezus was not good, and Yeezy trying to talk about how like it's Hunger Games out here and just all this wishy-washy mishmash bullshit. Listen, this album was garbage, and you want to know why it was garbage? Because I think that like, when I think, to be honest with you, I'm gonna be real with you, I feel like Kanye is having a breakthrough inside of his life, but it's happening in a jagged way. I think it's happening in a fucked up way because he's also around all these white folk now, and when you trying to grow in your fucking blackness and you around mad white folk, oh god, like tell you,
kept
dude,
Negro, man.
Yes,
kept ass Negro.
Yes.
Ooh.
And like that's the thing. That's the thing. When you trying to grow up in your blackness, and like I'm growing up in my blackness, and you know I'm still establishing myself. I'm still trying to get myself to where I need to be. And it's not something you just do by yourself. It involves community, and that's why it also is harder for us. Because it's harder for us to find community of also folks trying to grow up. You know what I mean? Grow up in their blackness and really, you know, manifest on that shit and build it up inside ourselves so we can really like show our true full selves instead of giving facets and pieces due to our whiteness, due to the gaze of whiteness always on us, and not being able to really be ourselves or really feel like we can really be seen as visible and vibrant and as our whole being. And I think and what I'm saying is, like, I feel like Kanye West is around all these white folk, but he's still seeing the bullshit. It's like, I think the thing is, he tried to get cozy with all these white folk, trying to have a little mixed baby, but it still don't matter. These white folks don't care about you, Kanye. You is a slave. You is a motherfucking slave. And that's what he's talking about, we all slaves. Yeah, but you a different type of slave. You the prize slave. You the slave that's making all this motherfucking money off these other motherfucking slaves, and you go and like in some ways it's a slap in the face to be sitting up in the fucking house with the master right underneath the master heel, telling all the rest of the slaves, man, the master boot feels so hard against my face. But we standing underneath you. We over here propping you up. We trying to give to you. Well, I think like a lot of people understand when black people are your fan, when black people are listening to you, it's not even just because you saying some good shit a lot of times. It's like some escapism, but also some like fucking personal therapy in this music. And I feel like Kanye West did have some real shit to say, and I did feel like for a long time I jammed to Kanye, and I was able to get my real I was able to get some spiritual food from what he was saying. But I feel like moving forward, it's not even just egotistical. It's him closing some eyes to some white fuckery, and it's him compromising his blackness, compromising his legitimacy, so that he could shuck and jive and act like he's not shuck and jive. You feel me?
Shuck and jive, but act like he's like revolting while shucking and jiving.
This nigga doing the Charleston and calling it the two-step. he's just doing like the most, and I don't appreciate it. I feel like I talked a lot. If you want to say some stuff about it, because like I want to also talk about how it relates in terms of like, you know, the 12 years of slaves. But I didn't want to move on before, like, if you want to say more about Kanye.
I mean, I think you said most of it. Like, just Kanye's like, I don't know, Kanye's on that black capitalism tip, and I think what I would say is like, it's like disappointing and kind of like sad to see like black people who like really feel Kanye on a certain level and keep on making him out to be this person that does have this like revolutionary potential in terms of like how he can sway like culture, how he could sway black culture or black people specifically, and how black people exist and are perceived in America. It's just really sad when people like put all of that on him, because he doesn't care about all those other Negroes, you know? Like he said, he just cares about him and his family. He just cares about like capitalists letting him at the table, letting him in the room, you know? So it's like, yeah,
he's like trying to tell other people there's bloodsuckers around, but he's trying to meet with them. You know, at one point he tells these niggas
conflicted.
At one point he tells the niggas in Atlanta, he says if you're in Atlanta in the Gucci store or the Louis Vuitton store in Atlanta, don't buy anything.
But also that was so patronizing and so like revealing of how Kanye perceives like the masses of fucking like poor and working class black people, and that like it wasn't on some justice shit or some liberation shit. It was just to prove if he goes close to the mic and he says it, like some black people are just gonna jump or skip just because he said to do so, you know? It was just like all black people, random city, Atlanta in the Gucci store. Just, you know? And it's like, that's how white people see black people, Kanye West.
Word.
So it's like, who are you trying to prove what to? And that black people will just jump at any silly whim.
Will just follow you. And I feel like, again, that's the thing too. As much as Kanye says he sells, as much as Kanye says he does, it still doesn't make sense to me why he hasn't gone into business for himself, despite, you know, like, despite having all this money, despite, like, being able to lose $13 million. And the thing is, you know, I mean, he's brought it up several times, so I'm just also wondering, like, are you still hurting, yay? Like, that $13 million put a hole in your pocket, you know what I mean? Like, damn. You know what I mean? And like, I don't know, like...
But still, though, rich Negro problems, you know?
Right.
It's like, he's upset that he's not, like, fucking... like George Soros, you know? Like, he's upset that the $13 million hit him a little... it did leave a little bruise, you know? He's upset that he's not one of those, like, white mega billionaires that are just like, ha ha ha.
Oh, I can just lose 13 mil. That 13 mil is like, oh, damn.
It reminded him, he's rich, but he's still a nigga. That's why he's upset. Because he's still a nigga.
Yeah, because that 13 mil really did. That 13 mil, that nigga probably lost the house maybe. One of his houses is gone. Like, damn, can't see the skyline in Geneva anymore. Like, you feel me? Because it's also like, because of his rich nigga problems, it's like, losing 13 mil, I can't I can't. You know what I mean? What is that? Honestly, if I lost $13 today, I would be sad. I would be sad for $13, but I can't imagine millions of times that. Okay, wow, computer. Like, the computer is like, bitch, like, get it together.
Oh my god.
Boop. Okay. Okay. So like now, like, do you want to segue into like 12 Years a Slave, and then like compare the two? Cause 12 Years a Slave.
Why not?
12 Years a Slave, y'all.
I feel like first of all, why was Bell Hooks? Why is Bell Hooks out here telling people they need to go see 12 Years a Slave? Like, why should I have seen that movie? After seeing it, like, what does it do for me?
Not a damn.
You know, what does it do for you?
I mean, like, I'll say this. Thank you for telling me to go see it, because now that I see it, I'm able to also like be able to work through this shit. So I'm a thank you for giving me an unintentional lesson for myself. But like, fuck out of here, because that shit was like, just, you know what the thing is? I try not to watch movies that center chattel slavery, mainly because I don't want to see that shit, and that's just real. That's how I feel. I don't want to see that shit. I am not a slave, and I ain't trying to be a slave, and I'm not trying to watch nobody who's black and free be a slave for some white people so they can get some Oscar nominee. I'm not trying to see that shit. I'm good. I'm not trying to contribute. I'm not trying to give you no money. I will, if compelled, watch that shit online for free. I'm not gonna give you no coins. I'm not gonna give you the Netflix token. You're not getting shit from me. I will search it online, and honestly, the person who was bootlegging that, like, I feel like they're probably not the best bootlegger. So I feel like if anything, I help their numbers. You know what I mean? I watched their shit. You know, their camera fell over, and he picked it up when he could. You know what I mean? That's what's real. But I'm not gonna pay no money to go see no fucking 12 Years a Slave. And I hope you don't either. If you need a link, bitch, let me know. I'll put it in the fucking description bar and help your ass out, so you don't have to pay no coins neither. Cause honestly, it was like an hour and a half too long. It's like we went from like, oh man, like, okay, white master, horrible ass white master, fucking another, and then it was just like, it was just fucking me up. Okay, let's start it though. Actually, let me get my smokes. No, where's cigarettes? Did you see them? Never mind. Thank you. For nothing. Kidding.
Like 20 minutes.
20?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're ready.
Okay, cool. I don't know. And I haven't seen you guys.
No.
I know I'm obviously not prepared to go.
No, you're fine. We are doing a video about 12 Years a Slave and Jesus. No, why are you sorry? There's editing software. I had to edit it anyway. There were parts that were like bloopers. I'm gonna put bloopers in the end.
Alright.
You're gonna be a blooper. What were we saying though? Where were we?
On 12 Years a Slave, yo. You were saying there was the white master, then the mean white master.
Someone said I look like Boy George.
Huh?
Someone said I look like Boy George in that picture.
I don't think you look like Boy George.
Is it because of the hat?
The hat, maybe? And I guess Boy George would have like a little side shave thing.
Okay.
But I mean,
I
just think that's a little unimaginative, you know?
Right? I mean, like, could you name another person? Whatever. Let's move on. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about 12 Years a Slave. Where were we though specifically? We just started it. We didn't even go into it. So do you want to, like, because I kind of like defined the Kanye West. So do you want to like just lay the scene, like where the movie starts? Like if you don't want to, that's cool too. Like if you want to just come in, it's up to you, dude.
Laying the scene. No, I don't think I can lay the scene, yo. Like I'm gathering my thoughts, you know.
Word.
It's like we just watched a movie about chattel slavery, you know? It's like, it's in fashion these days, you know? It's in season, slavery movies, so it's like, I'm just still decompressing, you know?
No, I feel you. I feel you. I'm gonna try and like spit it out like as quickly as I can, just so we can like really I guess break it down. But the movie, honestly, like I think the editing was very poor because it started off with like scenes that weren't relevant until the middle of the movie, and like I think like sometimes when you do some shit like that, when you like start the movie with like a scene from like the middle of the movie, it kind of like creates intrigue. However, the movie's called 12 Years a Slave. Start the movie from when he wasn't a slave. You feel me? Like, let's get the introductions. Let's see this man's life. I just noticed that the way that they made it out to seem, they showed this man just like they show most black lives in pieces, not cohesive at all. This man's life was just a jumble of fucked up stories that somebody white put together, somebody black directed. Okay, and it just seemed very like just flippant, and like it was just not really it was just not, it wasn't interesting. It was not interesting. And I guess like the thing is, the other thing I would say is, how interesting could a slave movie be? You know what I mean? And who the fuck is the demographic for a slavery fucking film? You know what I mean? And I think that's also why we're kind of like, why are black activists, black radicals, black people who seemingly are conscious, quote unquote, what the fuck? Like, why are you telling other people to watch this fucking movie? You know what I mean? Because like it's one of those things where it's like, I think like in one way, if I could like kind of try to like make like some sort of like logical sense out of maybe a black activist telling someone to watch the movie, would maybe to be like, to see that like this man had to fucking go through slavery himself, because that's how fucking wild white supremacy was at the time, to where even as a fucking free black man and seeing all this injustice, it was not enough to make you do shit. And even how like even during slavery, slaves were not really fucking down to fucking help other slaves. However, that is not actually true. This nigga was more so about helping himself. Like like I just saw like the hierarchies, like these black cis dudes like talking, amongst themselves about what they're gonna do. Like they all were seemingly like stolen, kidnapped, men who had been enslaved, had been tricked. And the movie, as I said, starts off kind of flippant, but they get to a point where they tell us that the main person, his name is Solomon Northup, is a violinist, but he also is, I guess, like a jack of all trades, and that like he's able to like also do like work on houses, build houses, carpentry, and other things. And this white man, calls him over and says, these two white men, like, want to speak with you. I told them that you were a great violinist. And, this black man is like, word. Like, he was looking for work anyway, you know what I mean? And, like, honestly, for him looking for work, just walking down the street, and these white people, like, accosting him and being like, hey, like, let's talk about, working together. It seemed kind of, like, too good to be true from jump. But then also, for us to see him meeting these white people seeming overly friendly, giving him lots of booze, feeding him good food. When he was sick from the booze, they brought him to a very nice room, a nice bed. And I really feared for the worst, because again, the movie is called 12 Years a Slave. So I knew something fucked up was gonna happen. Like that's how I was set up and throughout the whole movie, because I know that this man was made a slave unjustly. Having not read the book 12 Years a Slave, I was only left to insinuate that at any point in time this man would be kidnapped. At any point in time there would be harm, because 12 Years a Slave also indicates 12 years of just like brutality, 12 years of violence, 12 years of systemic oppression that was in your motherfucking face. So it's like, it's not only like, so like even in the moments that were seemingly non-violent, there was always a violent fervor, always a moment I was waiting. It was always pregnant in the air as we watched, like always jumping, flinching, worried, because we never knew when the violence was coming, but we knew it was coming inevitably, because again, the movie is called 12 Years a Slave. So, as I said, we see that this man is duped. He's kidnapped. He wakes up in chains. And upon first contact with some white people. They inform him that he is no longer Solomon Northup. He is a nigga from Atlanta, Georgia, who was a runaway slave. So then, like he's like trying to plead, tell them that he's a free man, and they beat the shit out of him. They beat the shit out of this man, and they leave him in this darkened room. And it's not until someone comes to bring him a shirt that he realizes that, like, there's all types of white people. There's the white people that'll trick you into kidnapping you. There are the white people that'll fucking seemingly take you out to dinner and offer you beautiful motherfucking lifetimes ahead. They offered him a whole job plan that was very much worked out. It seemed like a done bun. You know what I mean? But when it all came down to it, the next white people he meet are motherfucking beating the shit out of him, and then offer him some water and a shirt, but won't listen to him talk about how he's a free man. And then, from that moment, you also, as I said, see other things happening as well, because obviously 12 years a slave mean we're going to see some other enslaved black people. And we saw this one instance where there was this younger boy, and he was calling out for his mother, and he was just looking so sad. And, at one point, they're washing themselves in a bucket, and the master tells the man, wash the little boy, and the little boy starts calling for his mother, and Solomon Northup, is washing this little boy, and the slave master says, or rather the owner of the slave pen says, hush him up, get him, make him be quiet. And so, Solomon tells the little boy that his mother's coming, but he must be quiet now. And that really hurt me to see, because it was like, fuck, like, like being thrust into this situation. Also, like, not even like mentioning the fact that there are other men in there that are like seemingly just as educated as Solomon Northup, who is very much an educated black man, educated free black man. And like they're talking just about, like, they're talking above other people. These black cis men are talking above other people in their strategizing. And in no way, shape, or form are they at all likening themselves to the people around them as their equals. They are thinking that they are different because they have some sort of social standing, some sort of financial standing. And I noticed, when the woman came into the pen and they were like gonna sell her, no one spoke to her, you know what I mean? And the thing is, she was dressed very nicely. This black woman was dressed very nicely, and her child that she came with like a little girl, they were both dressed very nicely. And they came to, like, it seemed at the time, to rescue the boy. But they too were also put into the slave pen, transported to, this white man's house, where this white man held slave auctions, like, in his own home. And was, having black people naked in his home, showing them to this white man, who is also the white man from Sherlock. And we also talked about how many, like, famous white people they had in this film. Also, if we could pause. Brad Pitt, what the fuck are you doing, bitch? Brad Pitt, what the fuck are you doing?
Being a white savior.
You know what I found out the other day? When Robin Givens and fucking Mike Tyson was divorcing, they were still, like, fucking each other, like what? Or that's what he said. I don't know if it's real, but look, he said that they would go to the divorce attorney's office, but right before would be fucking. He said he went to go divorce her officially, and right before went to go have sex with her, and he seen Brad Pitt with Robin Givens.
Yeah, I think they dated. I think they were entangled.
Brad Pitt, fuck out of here.
Many years ago.
I'm not here for it. Brad Pitt. When I seen Brad Pitt wearing that fucking, Brad Pitt wearing that lace front, I was like, Brad Pitt, what are you doing, bitch? Just looking so damn scraggly. And then that other white dude, from motherfucking, he was recently in a movie I didn't care about. Ruby Sparks. The white dude who was in Ruby Sparks. I don't know his name. I don't give a fuck. I want to say
skinny one?
His name was like Ben something.
The pale one?
Yeah. No, the one that was like singing the nigga song.
That's Paul Dano.
Paul Dano.
Yeah.
Word. That is his name.
Yeah,
Paul Dano. So. His little ugly ass was in it. Oh, that other dude too, Paul Giamatti. That nigga was in it. His little ugly ass. It was just all these ugly ass white people up in these
slavery movies are in season.
Not only that though, but it's like, damn, these white people love to say the word nigga. Like, yo, they be like, I could just hear it in their voice, yo. I just heard it in their fucking voice, bro. And like, it was
their acting. They're
actors. I didn't like it. The shit was whack to me, and I just wasn't feeling it. And not to mention that, but I really did feel like there were parts of this film that certainly brought up in my mind direct links to like inactivity and like here's the thing. Like black academics, black people that have like that are in the ivory tower, that have the money, that have the knowledge seemingly, they love to criticize fucking broke, low income, like poor people of color in general, but specifically poor black folks for their inactivity. But I noticed that like academically fucking elevated, financially elevated blacks spend so much time criticizing that it's like when is the time that y'all are like going into the community? And that's what I was seeing. This man Solomon Northup was a free black man, but he constantly was like around, you know, these white folks, and like obviously like was, you know, minding himself and, you know, doing what he had to do to like kind of navigate, which I'm not gonna shame. But I did notice that like, you know, throughout this whole movie, there were parts where people were like talking about their struggle, especially like when like there were two other black men talking about rising up. This nigga just took a whole bunch of space out of that whole conversation to be like, a couple of days ago, I was with my family in my house. I was free. And it's like, wow, it's like damn, and like for you to sit up amongst these people that are all fucking like slaves, just like you. For you to not see yourself as a slave, for you to feel elevated, for you to feel different than. I feel like that's intrinsically linked to classism, but also academia.
But I think also too, like not only like his like wanting to distance himself from his state of enslavement, because that's an understandable thing for him to try to be like, oh, like I'm a slave, like no, like fuck out of here. But like it seemed like almost intentional, or this like tone that like there was no pushing of like the dialogue or any kind of conversation around like elevating all of the other black people who are enslaved, you know? It was kind of like, I used to be free, I'm not free anymore, and fuck that shit. But it wasn't why are black people enslaved, you know? And I guess like if you follow history and you figure out like how like his life ended up like after everything, like, you know, like that's real, that like your state of enslavement like was this thing that like brought you into doing abolitionist work. But even, I don't know, like even though that's what comes in terms of like the history of who this like movie is based on, it's like I just felt like too often like there was like this like distancing of like, I don't know, like this other layer of black people or something, by this layer of black people who know how to move around in the world, or who know how to like navigate.
Savvy, quote unquote.
Yeah,
like this, and like this know-how that those quote unquote savvy black people feel they have, which is just privilege. You know, like that man was like, Solomon was a free man probably because his family was free. You know what I mean? Someone in his family might have been free. You know, they never went into that, but I'm led to believe that he comes from a history of free niggas. So it's like, if that, or like, maybe not a history of, but like maybe not just him. Maybe he was born into freedom.
Yeah.
And don't know about slavery.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's real.
Yeah. But I mean, it's real. I guess it's real.
It is real.
But it's tragic. Like, because to me it's like a historical precursor to like how people talk about how respectability politics, like how respectability as a value like manifests like, you know, in the 21st century, like how it's this divisive thing like amongst like black people like trying to struggle or whatever. But to see like this like centuries ago distancing of like the black people who spoke well, or the black people who were free from the other masses of black people or something, you know, like even when they were like the scenes like when he was, you know, like soon after he was first enslaved, and they were like scheming and being like, oh well, maybe, you know, should we fight back or whatever the case may be, and just like the shaming and the blaming of like, oh well, you know, like niggas who are enslaved, like they don't know how to fight, you know, like they have no fight, you know.
Yeah,
and it's like
fight in their stomach.
And it's like, I wonder why, like, in the 21st century, like, we're watching movies about chattel slavery about centuries ago. Why is it now a trend? Why is it now a thing that, like, we are consuming? But again and again, we are reminded of the fallacy of, like, the fallacy, or not even the fallacy, the erasure of, like, organized black uprising or struggle or rebellion or something. And it's like, of course they're not trying to do that with this movie, you know? Of course they're trying to have the moments where you just kind of have it under there, well, you know, like, most of those other niggas don't have any fight, you know? Like, they don't have any struggle. And it's like, I don't know. I think it's very blaming of, like, trauma responses, like, of, like, the conditions of slavery to, like, continue to hint at that, and puts this onus on, like, black people, like, not fighting hard enough or not fighting well enough, and that's why we're not free, you know? I don't know. It's like, I don't know.
No, I appreciate what you're saying, because it's true. It's like, by elevating yourself, why is it that, like, you must stomp on others that are you? And why, and like, that's what I was trying to, like, also say in pertaining to, like, Kanye West, in calling out the slavery of brands, corporations, calling out wage slavery, calling out capitalism, but wanting to be implicit, luxuriating at the idea of master patting this nigga on the head. You know what I mean? He's calling out Nike. You know, Kanye West is calling out Nike for not letting him, or not giving him a release date on his third sneaker. But yet, where's his agency towards, like, black people, or even, like, the marginalized groups within black communities? It's just, like, mind blowing to me that, like, he could be so motherfucking, like, aware that he misses it, that he's, like, too busy looking at the little square, or I did a triangle, but, like, a little triangle of his life, like, seeing how these systems that affect everybody, but especially broke niggas, but, like, seeing those systems and how they splice and curve and hit and miss in his life, and, like, centering conversation about his broke nigga black cis problems. It's just like, whoa, like, it's just like,
but not even a broke rich Negro, you know, like a broker than those other richer people,
not as rich
to be
rich nigga, not as rich as the master, but wanna be as rich as the master, wanna be master. It's like these wanna be master niggas that keep coming out, and that's also like what I seen, you know, in 12 Years a Slave. You know what I mean? Like. There were, like, black women in this movie portrayed as, like, very, like, quote-unquote strong. You know, like, there was, like, this woman who, like, was ripped away from her children, and, you know, they expected her to not grieve that. They expected her to not feel that shit. And even the white woman said, you know, maybe you just need a nap. Maybe you just need something to drink. That'll make you forget your children. The inhumanity of white women, you know what I mean? And, like, I think that when we watch movies like this too, white people love to be like, you know, just the white people in this film are just so grotesque. Like, how people can be like that. But it's like, you know, those actors and actresses played those parts. And them shits was, like, a million times worse because they was real. When they go cut, then white people are still oppressors in other ways, but they go to bed feeling like, I'm not Miss Lily in the house, slicing up black lady faces because I feel like my stale crustacean looking ass is just looking too damn fucking lackluster that I can't take all this luxuriousness. It's just like, wow, you know what I mean? There were so many things at play in 12 Years a Slave. So I'm not going to sit here and be mad that I watched it. I'm just going to be real about the fact that, like, in 12 Years a Slave, there was, like, so much shit popping off that it's, like, hard for me to, like, just critique it. Like, I think we're almost, like, 40 minutes into this shit, and, like, we haven't even gotten into all of it. But, you know what? Look. Like this video if you want to watch more, and then we'll do another video because, like, we really gotta go. We got shit to do.
Oh yeah, it's Haley's birthday.
It's Haley's birthday party. Okay, so we'll talk to y'all soonish. Gonna go. Okay, bye.